ending the week off on a positive note, up 0.5%, given the fact that we have seen a few losses coming to the fore. Of course, it is about earnings. We have seen some great numbers coming through from Kenya Airways, other stocks that are starting to enjoy gains on the back of anticipated results, such as Safaricom also doing relatively well. Tell us about the gainers and losers for the day.
Well, generally, we opened the day, we had a very light trading session. I mean, volumes were down quite slightly. Very little activity on the large caps. If you look at Scan Group, it somehow picked up quite significantly on the back of local trading. Local investors were seeking on the stock. A bit of selling, but it managed to close up quite about 7%. We've seen generally very weak trading on Safaricom, ahead of results next week. Mumia Sugar, it was trading come dividend today on the last day, but still we also saw quite a bit of weak trading. Kenya Airways released results today, as you mentioned, and I think that those are quite solid numbers, and obviously the stock didn't move too much, but I guess we'll probably see that in the coming week.
Well, you mentioned Scan Group, a company that has been under the spotlight. It seems that a lot of people have realized that there will be a lot of ad spend when it comes to Africa, and of course various other deals that Scan Group has embarked on. Would you be buying the stock at this point in time? Do you think there's still a bit of room for upside movement?
I'd probably probably trim my position at this point. I mean, I think the story is very positive on the stock, and they recently acquired Ogilvy, and that's the brand they're going to be using to expand across Africa. But I don't think there's sufficient value. I think it will take a lot more time to actually realize value. Although, the other side of the coin is that there's the stock is very tightly held, and you have very thin liquidity, which means the stock can remain expensive for a very long time. And like WPP is looking to use Scan Group really as its platform to really expand across Africa. So on a speculative basis, I think also it's generally a good stock, but at this point it looks fully valued.
Of course, it is the second best performing stock on the NSE after EGAD, so a lot of gains that we've seen so far this year. Touching on Kenya Airways, a gain of almost 2%. Today, we also saw it rallying in yesterday's session. Pre-tax profit sitting at 67% higher from the same time last year. So the first half results looking relatively robust. I chatted to the CEO a little earlier, and he did say that things look good going forward. They are planning to bring down their costs even further. So perhaps the outlook looking stronger than what it did a year ago.
Yes, certainly. And even if you look from the IATA numbers, basically they expected a very strong performance from the airlines in 2010. They were a little bit cautious on 2011, and because basically there's a lot of capacity coming through during 2011. But that said, if you look at Kenya Airways, I think the performance was quite splendid. And currently, Kenya Airways is trading at just around book value, trading at a book value of 1. If you look at a 60% gain in profits, I think the performance was quite solid. And I think we'll probably see a lot more traction on the stock in the coming week.
A lot of money being taken off the table when it comes to Safaricom. We saw it down around 2% yesterday. Looking at the stock, we know that the company is releasing results on the 10th of November, so that next week investors are bracing themselves to see how the price wars have affected the company's earnings.
Yeah, I mean, we have the results going to be out, but that's for the period ending September. That will not show investors the impact of price competition. So what we'll be looking for is the guidance on management, and we have a new CEO on board. So we'll probably be looking at guidance on how price competition has affected the company, probably from September onwards to around November. And so I think that's why investors are a little bit jittery. At African Alliance, we still remain quite bullish on the stock, and we think it's going to perform quite well and still have a buy recommendation on it. So I think we'll really be looking forward to the results to see whether it confirms our suspicions that Safaricom can really thrive despite competition.
Okay, many investors are divided as to whether you would be accumulating Safaricom at these levels. Some are still very bullish and feel confident that the prospects in the data space is going to buoy the company out of the issues that it's been facing on the voice side, sitting at around 4.75 shillings. Your view on this stock?
Yeah, we'll definitely be buying on the stock. We have a fair value of 5 shillings and 55 cents. It's currently trading at 470. So there's still a lot of value to be realized on the stock. The way we look at it is, even if you look at the voice revenue being flat, maybe, at best, and, maybe down slightly, we think M-Pesa and data are going to do the heavy lifting. And so we think, if you look at that, if you look at the penetration numbers, M-Pesa is doing quite well, saving the company also on airtime costs. So we think just on the back of those, and still they're getting net, they're getting over 50% of new subscribers. We think that's quite sustainable, and especially if you combine that with the fact that the economy is doing quite well. Disposable income is increasing. For a company with an 80% market share of the telecommunications market in Kenya, it's really not unforeseeable that they're going to do well.
Eric, also just touching on the fact that it is about to launch its second tranche of a bond. Of course, we saw the first tranche last year. Your view on this, and do you think that it's going to be as heavily oversubscribed as what we saw last year?
I mean, in fact, it's an advantage that they're launching it, because basically interest rates have declined quite significantly. By launching it, they'll probably be able to tap they'll be able to tap funds at probably between 8.5 maximum interest rates. If you look at the previous bonds that have been done, at over 5 years maturity, probably 7 years, Housing Finance was able to raise 7 billion at an 8.5% interest rate, and that was a 7-year bond. So Safaricom, a 5-year bond, would probably be looking at a lower interest rate than that. And that's going to reduce the weighted interest rate that it's currently paying.
Very quickly, Eric, sorry to interject there. The NSE 20, where do you see it by the end of the year? Of course, we hit that 4,700 level not too long ago.
I think we are going to see it trading within very narrow bands. I don't see substantial change from the current levels. If you look at December, it'll be very challenging to see any substantial movement. So at the moment, I think we're going to see flat trading.
Fantastic. Eric, thank you very much. I hope you